Nucci when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging them moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my buddy's homemade wine. Living Northwest wild, hunting, fishing is my kind of style. I float the Nucci when it gets hot. I'm proud of all the things that I've got. I'm digging them moss bags up in the sand, and after work a cold beer in my hand, picking wild berries off God's land, and drinking my bud.
Hey, good evening and welcome to Fish on Northwest. Wayne England, Kelly Barnum in studio. We're back in studio.
Back. Like I haven't been here in a long time.
We're actually all back in studio.
Yeah.
We had a couple weeks off, and for those of you that joined us last week, we were live down at Sportco. Great event, by the way. Glad you could make it.
Yes.
Through traffic and all. Yeah, you should make it more often. David was there, and he is here again tonight over in IT Corner getting it done. We'll be joined later in the show with a fantastic cooking episode, as we do each and every week, with Chef Kelly and Sherry. I think they're doing, what are they doing? Crab soup.
Yeah.
The crab in Olympia right now is off the charts.
Off the charts.
And some other harbors and bays are crabbing very well, so we wanted to make sure we threw out one of our better crab recipes that Chef did. It is amazing. Might be a little involved for some folks, Barn, but I'm telling you, man, that recipe tonight, and it's quick.
I don't even know what soup means.
So. Well, I look at it and it looks like somebody spelled soup wrong because there's an E on the end of it, so I'm just going, yeah, whatever, it must be French or something. Anyway, lots going on. Hey, want to remind folks that are joining us tonight, we have a very special guest, Loren Culp, running for governor of the state of Washington on the Republican ticket, currently the police chief of Republic. Sherry and I have had the opportunity to meet this gentleman previously early in the week at a dinner engagement, and he and other folks were speaking. Fantastic. Have gotten to know his campaign team. They're here tonight. Yep. Everybody showed up. We had a great dinner. Of course, we fed our future governor elk steaks and salmon caught out of Puget Sound, and why wouldn't we?
You wouldn't expect anything else.
Nothing else better from FHN, so that's the way we do it here, and Shing did a fantastic job in that regard. So we've got dinner. We've settled in. We're kicking off the show. We're going to have a lot of new faces tuning in tonight to take a look at what it is we exactly do here each and every week, and you're going to get a taste of it, albeit our agenda tonight, Barnum, is a little different, right? We are giving Loren Culp full platform here for good reason. When a person is stepping up to run for governor of your state and they call and ask if they can be on your show, we're not just going to give them 1 or 2, 5 or 10 minute segments. Right. We're going to dig deep here and try to come up with as many questions as we can.
We have a candidate for governor that wants to sit down and talk hunting and fishing issues.
How great is that?
When is the last time that's happened in Washington State, guys?
Right, yeah.
It's been a long, long time.
Need to take advantage of it. So if you're watching via Facebook, we thank you. If you're joining us via our YouTube channel, fantastic. Type in those messages and questions. We have extra staff here with Loren's campaign team that'll help us field those questions and hopefully provide you guys with answers as we get through the evening. So I want to remind everybody to join us each and every week right here 7 p.m. Thursday evening on our YouTube channel or our Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. Go ahead and check us out on Facebook and spend the week with us getting interactive, right? That's where we put all our information, and you and I, my friend, have posted quite a few things that have got...
Yeah, I like to stir stuff up a little bit.
Yeah, you kind of got that big wood spoon you carry around and, exercise that frequently. So lots of content there, and you folks are responding, and we appreciate that because there's a lot of things going on at the state level, albeit through Olympia or WDFW. You folks down in Oregon, ODFW and Idaho Fish and Game, we're all kind of connected via that Columbia River, and things that happen tri-state-wise affect us all here in the Northwest. So you need to keep abreast of what that information is and follow us here on FHN to steer you in the right direction. So
right, it's not good enough just to kind of lay low anymore. I mean, we have to get more active as sports.
Yep.
We have to.
You're going to wake up one morning and you don't have a road to access and you don't have a boat ramp to get your boat on the water, and you're going to wonder what the heck happened. So stay in contact with us and we'll help you through it. With that, I want to remind folks that Fish on Northwest is presented by Better Homes and Gardens Pacific Real Estate, located in Puyallup, Washington, and we thank them for that. And moving forward, Barnum, we got a lot of things to get through. We'll hit a couple hot buttons here for our intro segment, and then we're going to delve right into it. But oh, hey, by the way, I want to remind you, I got my buck.
Yeah, you also set your punch deer tag right here in front of me just to rub it in.
Well, I didn't do that on purpose. Well, maybe I did.
I call BS. Yeah, they're on purpose.
So,
right?
Hey, man, you got 3 days, right?
Yeah,
go get your buck on the east side.
There's 3 days left. I was going to make another run over, but man, I've made the trip over the mountain like 800 times this year, it feels like.
Well, let's take a look at this. You got a brand new pickup.
Yes.
A few months ago. How many miles are on that pickup?
I got a brand new pickup Labor Day weekend.
Right.
And it just rolled 14,000 miles.
14,000 miles since Labor Day, right? You cannot say this man is not dedicated to getting over to Newport and chasing whitetail.
I feel like I have about that many hours in a ground blinder and a tree stand.
I've been enjoying your auto load up cell phone camera linkage that you got going, and we've been able to watch, cougar, bear, moose.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
coyotes.
cougar, right?
Yeah.
Right.
That was a big kitty.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. The other night I'm sitting at home and I get a ding, and normally it's 25, 30 pictures.
Right.
And I get one picture, and I'm like, oh, that's odd.
That's
I click
weird.
on it, and it's one big cat.
Big cat.
I mean, really big cat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a little bit of a trying to hunt deer in an area.
But within a couple hours later, you had deer right back.
My target buck was right back in there an hour and a half later.
He's not messing around.
Yeah, he's not scared.
Well, it's unfortunate he didn't show himself during daylight hours, giving you opportunity. So, well, it is what it is. We keep going after it, and I was fortunate enough to get that little spike. Glad I did, because you seen this weather lately? I don't want to be out hunting in this weather.
Work in it.
Yeah, that's true. Glad to get that spike, and glad he's in the freezer and we're done with that, because we're focusing on fishing. And hey, man, we're after Thanksgiving. We're before Christmas. It's steelhead time. This rain is something we definitely need.
Yep.
If we had time tonight, we'd get into the weather forecast, river forecast, Puget Sound conditions as we start looking forward towards some blackmouth opportunities. But I'm telling you, these rivers are spiking.
Yeah, let's do the river forecast real quick.
Yep. That being said, this is Thursday. We're tapering off on your rain the next couple days. By Sunday, they're dropping. Monday, I'm going steelhead fishing. Got an invite to get out with some guys. Good. Looking forward to that. And you better get it in between Monday, Tuesday. Call in sick, whatever you got to do, because by Wednesday, we're actually going to exceed what we're doing this weekend. And we're going to be in the several thousand cubic feet per second on a lot of our rivers. And so it will be a week or so before we get to fish. But I'm optimistic of the steelhead season. Of course, you can't go into it any other way, because if you think it's going to be doom and gloom, well, then it is. Or if you think it's going to be doom and gloom, then you're not disappointed when it is. I don't know how to gauge that, but
well, I'm more excited to have this rain kind of wash everything out and see what those final coho numbers are.
Yeah, see if we can get a bump, right?
Did it improve? Did it not improve? Yep. How bad is the situation really?
I guess we'll find out Monday, Tuesday. Yeah. If they're going to be there, that would be the time. So moving forward, at least we got clam digs to look forward to. WDFW announced, and we're already a couple days into it, December 10th through the 16th. You have an opportunity to get out on all your common beaches, and there is a lot of clam digging going on and a lot of success. We've had lucrative dates for quite some time. Backing up, if you remember, it was 5.3 or 5.2 million clams they projected, and that's a lot of opportunity. Yeah, albeit it's nighttime digs. Yes, it's winter. Yes, it's cold. Maybe not take the little kids out, but that being said, you do have an opportunity to go get clams.
Right, and the great thing is we've had a lot of openings this year, and I think the openings are continuous. So you can afford to skip the 40-mile-an-hour wind and rain days.
Yeah.
Wait for a little night.
Yeah, you got a full-on through the 16th, and then we have tentative dates the 23rd through the 29th to look forward to. Remember, get on the WDFW social media pages. They have Team Clam Gun or hashtag Team Clam Shovel, depending which one you align with. You simply post up your pictures of yourself and your friends with your bounty and your tool of choice, hashtag Team Clam Gun or hashtag Team Clam Shovel, and they're running a little competition just to see at the end of it all, at the end of clam season, which team actually has more persons favorable of whatever armament that you choose, apparently.
Hashtag Team Clam Backhoe?
Ooh, that would get it done.
Just go dig
in short order, yeah. So something to look forward to. We have a commission meeting. Moving on here, we got a commission meeting coming up this weekend, Friday, Saturday. And for all you guys that complain because they hold meetings on Friday, well, not a lot of exciting things going on in the meeting on Friday. Saturday, there's a number of bullet points that they've put in their announcement that some folks may be interested in. They're going to review the Joint State Columbia River Fishery Policy Review Committee will be doing an update presentation to the Commission, and it'll be on the Columbia River Salmon Management Policy. So the redirection of the policy as it's been redrafted, members of that committee are going to be there to give a presentation to the Commission. I'm very curious as to where that's going because it's kind of been hush-hush. And I don't really know what they're drafting for this next season or where this is going, but folks need to pay attention to it. Also, for a lot of folks that were upset because they're going to liberalize the bag limits on our warm water fish, bass, walleye, catfish, selected waters throughout the state of Washington, they've proposed this via House Bill 1579. It is directing WDFW to implement the increase to basically they're trying to do predation control measures. They're asking recreational harvesters to go ahead and harvest those fish with no bag limit because they want to get that predation out of the water. Now, if you are a avid bass fisherman, walleye fisherman, and are one who catches smaller walleye and releases them, you're not particularly fond of this movement to say, hey, lucrative bag limits, take as many as you can get, because we know in short order we'll overfish those opportunities, and pretty soon there goes another opportunity for recreational opportunities. So there's folks on both sides of the fence.
Yeah, it's a tough issue because you have those predation fish that are eating salmon smolts, and so you want to protect the salmon
by the millions.
Right. But you also have a growing fishery that's gaining a lot of popularity, and you have a lot of people that are getting into that, a lot of guides that are starting to get into that, and so it's like, man, what's the balance there?
Some of the waters that have been opened up to have lucrative bag limits, guides are making it a point to say, hey, if you're booking a trip with me for walleye, I have a 7-fish bag limit per angler or per rod on the boat. And that's kind of the common theme that a lot of guys are doing, and hats off to them for that, because our anadromous fisheries continue to go in the toilet. I just put out another post that Nisqually tribe closed their chum fishery now, which usually extends all the way through December 31st. This has happened now the last couple of years in a row. Yeah, I know we're talking tribal gill nets, but it's a benchmark to say, hey, the run is way underperforming, as would be the case for most of our chum fisheries this fall season. This is yet another one. We used to have an abundance of Nisqually chum. That was a kind of a destination chum fishery, if there's such a thing. This was the one in the state that persons would purposefully go do because they were such amazing fish, so bright, the meat was amazingly red.
And there always seems to be a lot of them.
And there was. Right. Now we're struggling. Yeah, overharvest can be, point the finger at that for several years, back up 6-8 years ago. That was going on, but, I believe these ocean conditions continue to weigh in. And they've really hit us hard once again this year with coho, and as we move into our chum fisheries and these later fisheries, this is that optimistic part of me that says, I really don't know how this steelhead this season is going to materialize. I think we may have, definitely will have, some areas that could be a big case of disappointment. So anyway, they're also going to give an update on the increase of Chinook salmon for the endangered southern resident killer whales. So a lot of things pertaining to Puget Sound and beyond are happening at that meeting. If you're available to go sit in on that, have never done it, and want to see what the commission meetings are all about and get these report updates, it's going to be dumping rain on Saturday anyway, and rivers are going to be blown. So if you're up north, this meeting will be held at the Holiday Inn and Suites, 4260 Mitchell Way, Bellingham. It's easy enough just to Google WDFW or Washington State Fish and Wildlife Commission meeting schedule. Pull that up, check out where the meeting is. Even if it's an hour away, again, you're not going to be doing anything with this weather. You're not going to be fishing. Might as well go sit down in a meeting and see what's happening in the realm of those topics we've already covered. So with that, we got a number of items to get through. We have Loren Culp in studio tonight going to talk about a lot of issues that are hammering our state as of the last, 8 to 10 years, 12. We are talking a lot about fishing and hunting and a gamut of topics that fall under that umbrella, but we're also going to tackle homeless problems, opioid crisis, infrastructure, failing infrastructure, They're in, healthcare, schools, trade schools. Where'd the trade schools go, right? We are in a... Taxes. We're in a booming economy and we can't find persons to do work. It's really kind of a counterproductive thing we find ourselves in here that is kind of baffling to say the least. So lots of topics to cover with Loren. So we're going to stop chatting on all these other issues right now. Yep. We're not going to be providing you guys with weather report tonight. I would love to do a how-to relative to steelhead. We will jump back to all that stuff next week. We'll have a regular lineup. We are going to do the cooking segment, as I mentioned, but no how-to tonight. We're not going to talk about specific fisheries. We're not going to talk about what's going on the east side. We are going to talk politics on this show tonight, specifically with candidate Loren Culp. And we have a ton of people tuned in tonight, Barnum. This thing is blowing up. Yep. We have Rhonda helping us with questions. So whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, be sure to log in, post your questions here. Barnum and I will field as many as we can. Rhonda's here to assist and make sure we get the specific ones on point to throw at Loren when he sits down. And we're just gonna kind of see how the evening goes. We've got a lot of ground to cover here. So with that, we're gonna jump out for a quick break. We come back, we're going to introduce you folks. If you haven't met him or don't know him, Loren Culp, Police Chief of Republic, is going to be in the hot seat, and we're not going to beat on him, but we're going to ask a lot of questions. And why a man would want to run for governor on the Republican ticket here in Washington State. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this break.
At metal supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals. So we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, metal supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a metal supermarket store near you today.
welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. Thanks for tuning in this evening. Our computers are blowing up here at Barnum. We haven't had this much activity since, we think of ourselves as a fishing hunting show. And to date, the most viewed show that we have had was when we had Julia Smith on and talked about wolves. They're very controversial. So we appreciate everybody tuning in. Loren Culp, pleasure to introduce you, current police chief of the town of Republic, and running for governor of Washington State.
That's right.
Yeah.
Threw my hat in there.
You certainly did. You threw more in your hat.
You sound so excited.
Yeah.
I'm ready.
So glad you took the time on your busy campaign trail to join us here on Fish Hunt Northwest. I think it's, Barnum and I are just amazed that, finally somebody running for the highest political office in our state is willing to sit down and talk hunting and fishing.
Yes. Absolutely. Fishing and hunting is my life.
Yeah.
I've been a hunter since I was a kid.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. I told you when I met you, I said, yeah, you killed your first deer at 8 or 9 and shot your first elk at 12. You looked at me like,
that's right.
You almost wanted to say, are you a cop? I mean, no, I'm just a dumb fireman, right?
Yeah, you work for the FBI or something?
Yeah, no. I like to do my homework on folks that are, getting out there and taking on something like this. So a lot of folks tuning in probably have been kind of paying attention to what you have going on, and there's a lot of folks tuning in that don't know anything about you. So let's start a little bit about with your history, previous career path, kind of where you have landed. You're currently as a police chief. How'd you get there?
Well, I'm a lifelong resident of Washington State. I was born in Everett, raised around Chimacum, which is right outside of Port Townsend, until my freshman year in high school, and then my folks bought a lumberyard hardware store over in Republic, and we moved to Republic over in the northeast corner of the state. Met my high school sweetheart there, been married to her for 41 years.
Oh, congratulations.
And I have 2 sons and 7 grandkids.
Right.
So I spent 4 years in the United States Army. I was a combat engineer in the 101st Airborne. After the military, worked in construction. And then in 1988, I started my own construction business.
Right.
And I ran that for over 20 years.
Here in Olympia.
In Olympia,
right?
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did jobs all over Puget Sound.
Yeah.
And I sold that to my youngest son about 15 years ago. He still runs that business right now.
Right.
Yeah.
So, reading your book, and we'll jump into the book for a little bit, but it was, it kind of made me smile when I read the fact your dad was a Washington State patrolman, then he went to U.S. Marshal, and then he ended up as a county sheriff. And he got out of police work and went into construction.
Right.
And you pay tribute to him by mentioning you used to actually ride to calls with him in the squad car.
Right.
Well, is 10 or 12 years old,
as
right?
a young boy, yeah.
So then he goes into construction. So then as you get out of the Army and you're like, well, I got to do something. So you knew construction, so you're going to go construction. But your passion, something in the back of your head is always going, hey, you need to be a police officer.
Right. That was my childhood dream.
Right.
I was going to be a cop just like my dad.
Yep.
Because I remember him waking me up in the middle of the night, 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. I was maybe 10, 12 years old.
Yeah.
And there would be an emergency call, and he'd take me along with him.
I don't think you could do that nowadays.
Yeah, probably not.
I don't think you can take a 12-year-old to a bank robbery, right?
Though.
Yeah,
By
By the time I got out of high school, he was out of police work,
Right.
Doing construction. And then after the military, I just followed him into that career.
Yeah, yeah.
But after 20 years of being in construction, the job opening opened back up over in Republic, and my wife and I had always been trying to figure a way to get back to Republic.
Yeah.
We wanted to leave the small town when we lived there as kids. But,
right.
So I took that job at the age of 49.
As a rookie police officer.
Yep. Went to the academy with 20-some-year-olds.
Yep.
And made it through and worked my way up to a narcotics detective and then a sergeant, and now I'm the chief of police, been chief for 3 years.
Right, yeah, and doing a great job over there, and people love you, and it's, smaller town, 1,100 folks or just under, right? Yeah.
Yep, it's county seat of Ferry County.
Right.
It's the only incorporated city in the whole county over there.
Right. I found it interesting that you point out in your book that about 20% is your tax base. 20% of the land over there is tax base because of the Colville Nation and lands that are secured by other entities. But you got a real small tax base over there to try and do everything you're trying to do.
Right, very small.
Yeah.
Half the county is tribal, and then a big portion of it's federal land.
Right. Yeah, interesting. So you kind of got pushed to the limelight in the forefront. Found yourselves on national news shows, and the phone was ringing, the emails were blowing up, because Loren Culp police chief of Republic decided, he took a look at Initiative 1639 when it was passed, and you said, nope, not on my watch. This is unconstitutional. Yep. Not only unconstitutional against the Second Amendment, but it also goes against Washington State Constitution, Article 24.
Exactly.
And you were like, we are not doing this. So let's talk about that progression, how the next day you had folks stopping you on the street, didn't you?
Right. I was at work the day after 1639 passed. And for those that may not know, 1639 bars 18 to 21-year-olds from having a semi-automatic rifle and leaving their property with it, and they can't buy one.
Right.
But they can serve in the military.
Yeah, exactly.
So the next day after it passed, which I didn't believe it did, I didn't think there's in no way that
how would this
citizens
pass?
of my state would pass something like that.
Well, because we're talking medical record backgrounds, right?
Right.
We're talking...
if a criminal breaks into your house while you're gone, takes your gun and commits a crime, you could be held responsible. And get a felony.
How does stuff like this even make it to the ballot?
Exactly.
It just blows me away.
Well, Jay Ferguson and Bob Inslee fooled the citizens because they make the title. Okay, who doesn't want school safety and gun safety?
Right.
I've heard from so many people. They read the title and they voted for it because they like safety.
They read the title, yes.
Yep. So they fooled them.
Yep.
But anyway, the next day after it passed, I was asked by citizens if I was going to start arresting 18 to 21-year-olds who I saw with a semi-automatic rifle. Mm-hmm. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that because it's a violation of their constitutional rights.
Right.
And it's a violation of my oath of office.
Right.
I swore to uphold and defend the Constitution.
Yep.
And I wouldn't do it. And so throughout the day, I got asked by several citizens the same thing. I gave them the same answer. And being a small town with a small police force, there's 2 officers.
Yeah.
I had other things to do.
It's Mayberry.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Essentially.
I've been called Andy Griffith before.
I'm sure you have.
I don't like to be called Barney Fife.
No. Well, your deputy is the one who keeps the bullet in the pocket. You carry it on your... Yeah.
Yeah,
gotcha.
But I thought it'd be a good idea to put it on our Facebook page. My answer to the question.
Sure.
So I could continue on and do my work and not just be talking about that initiative all day.
All day long, yeah.
So I put it on Facebook that as long as I'm the chief of police, no one that works for me in the city of Republic will violate citizens' constitutional rights, period.
Right.
And that got a lot of attention. And the next day I thought, well, it'd be a really good idea. The far left is wanting to make sanctuary cities for illegal criminals. Mm-hmm. Why don't I propose an ordinance to make the city of Republic a sanctuary city for the Second Amendment?
Right.
And so I wrote up an ordinance, and I suggested to the city council and the mayor that they pass this. Mm-hmm. I sent it in an email to them, and then I posted that on Facebook.
Right.
I thought, okay, I have about 1,000 followers on my Facebook page. That's
saying
about
it's going to be a big deal
are in the city.
Sure, who's going to see this, right?
I'm just going to let the citizens know.
You realize social media goes beyond the boundaries of...
Well, you know what? I found that out really quick.
Yeah.
But as you were growing up, did you ever think that it would be controversial to say that we're going to make this a sanctuary city for the Second Amendment?
No, the whole United
of the
States.
Constitution.
It's only...
The United States
unbelievable.
should be a sanctuary for the Second Amendment.
Right,
and all the amendments, right?
Yes, right.
So I didn't think that would be an anomaly. A police chief wanting to uphold their oath of office.
Right.
But that post went viral. I mean, it went apparently everywhere around the world.
Sure.
Because the phone started ringing at City Hall. The phone started ringing at the county dispatch center. And the mayor's calling me on the phone, and he's like, what did you do?
What did you
do? The phone is ringing off the hook.
Right.
And I said, I just stood up for the citizens. And he goes, well, I like that, but... there's news crews coming here, and they're going to want to talk to you.
Yeah.
And Fox News showed up with a reporter and a camera crew, spent probably 2 days there, interviewing me, interviewing the mayor, talking to citizens. And there were several camera crews that ended up coming through. I was talking to newspapers and TV all across the country. I was on Tucker Carlson.
Yep.
I was on Fox and Friends.
Right.
And One American News Network with the Graham Ledger. It just went crazy.
Yeah.
And then a strange thing happened. I expected other chiefs and sheriffs would step up and go, yeah, we're not enforcing it either. But there was only one or two right at first. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't figure out what the heck is going on, why, you know?
Yeah.
And then I thought, well, most everybody is a product of the public school systems, and they don't teach us the things that my parents taught me about our Constitution, our heritage, and our founding fathers.
Right.
So I thought, well, I need to get what's in my head onto paper. I need to write a book.
Sure.
Get this information out to the citizens, to educate them, and get it to the elected public servants, so that they know that they have the authority to stand up against unconstitutional laws.
And you sat down, and it seems to me in a matter of months, talking to you now, I mean, to hammer this.
Nope, 1 month.
1 month.
I wrote
January.
I wrote that in the month of December.
Oh, December. Okay.
Last year, exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
And then my friend, who was an author, I called her up and I said, how do I publish a book? Because I knew she'd written 4 or 5 books.
Right.
And she said, well, that's awesome, because I just became a publisher 2 weeks ago. And so she said, if you'll write it, I will edit out all your misspelled words, which is, I'm so thankful for.
Your typewriter doesn't have spell check? What?
And
who
put
knew?
it in a book form.
Right.
And then publish it. And she did that during the month of January. It came out the first part of February. And it shot to #1 on Amazon in 3 different categories, and was on the top 100 for a few weeks, which was amazing.
So when you read the title American Cop, if you think you're going to read the book and read about, you know, cop stories and things going on and what it's like to be a police chief and stuff, you're misdirected. This is all about what it truly means to be patriotic, understanding Second Amendment, understanding Washington laws, understanding what it is to stand up for your rights, and you know, the way things have shifted and how misguided folks are, which kind of just is a great segue for us to jump into. And I was asking, you kind of laughed at me. I just read the book here the last couple days. It's either chapter 5 or 6. You do a very nice job at breaking down the differences between a democracy and a republic. And you pointed out that even in our salute of the flag, to the republic for which we stand, right?
Exactly.
It's pointed out in our flag salute, and folks forget that we are governed under a republic, because even I think I heard the president today say something about our democracy, right? And it comes out of the mouths of all politicians throughout the nation constantly. It's in the schools. Everybody thinks it's a democracy.
Right.
You tell a story in your book advising folks, if you haven't, you need to watch the movie or read the book, Where the Red Fern Grows.
Yes.
And you use that as a platform to discuss how it was that we as outdoorsmen and women lost the use of hounds for hunting. Let's talk about that a little bit, your upbringing in using dogs, and how, based on democracy, we really, in the state of Washington, we lost the ability to hunt with dogs.
Right. Well, if you read the Constitution and you read our founders' quotes, they hated democracy. Democracy is mob rule.
Right.
It's the majority telling the minority what they're going to do, whether they like it or not. And our founders set us up as a republic. If you read Article 4, Section 4 of the United States Constitution, it says that the federal government guarantees to each state a republican form of government. If you read the founding documents from beginning to end, top to bottom, you will not find the word democracy one time.
Right, good point.
Yeah, but you will find republic. And our founders talked highly of a republic, a constitutional republic, where the law is the rule.
Right.
Not the majority of people.
Not mob mentality.
Exactly.
Right, yeah.
I mean, mob mentality is a lynch mob. You know, they decide that you're going to hang, because the majority rules, right? I don't know how many times that was pounded into my head in public school.
Sure.
Majority rules, and we're a democracy. And you hear it all the time from politicians, from the news media. It's taught in school, and our elected officials say it. But it is so far from the truth. And the difference between republic and democracy is, I mean, they're worlds apart. They can't commingle.
Right.
One is mob rule, and one is freedom.
Sure.
So if you look back, and I have quotes in the book about what our founders said about democracy and the republic, and it's very clear if you do your research.
Sure.
And it's kind of curious. There's some people that really like democracy, and those are communist leaders, because democracy leads to socialism, which leads to communism.
Yeah.
It's just a progression.
And we have that mixed message going on throughout the nation right now, and there's, socialists are trying to really get to the forefront and take their ideology and push it down the throats of a lot of our youth across the nation. It's kind of scary, actually. It is scary. And so the fact is, the example that you weighed in on here relative to the outdoors is, somebody throws on an initiative because they decided it was no longer acceptable to hunt certain game with dogs. And that didn't go to just a small minority group to vote on that. That went across the state. Majority of a lot of folks who are misinformed, don't understand anything what that's all about. For the parents who are busy and big metropolitan cities and day-to-day grind and getting the kids to school and piano lessons and just to walk into the voting booth or to strike that pen on their mail-in ballot and simply agree to do that because they read it and go, well, yeah, that just sounds horrible. Hunting animals with dogs? Yeah, they don't need to do that.
Well, not only that, but they had a whole ad campaign
against it.
You have the Humane Society of the United States.
PETA.
They don't take care of animals. They are an anti-animal use group, anti-hunting group.
Yep.
And they ran ad after ad after ad on TV showing videos of animals being killed.
Yeah.
Oh my God, animals being killed. And that's what swayed the majority of the public to vote against it. And that's the power of democracy.
Right.
If you have enough money, you can run ads, you can persuade most of the public.
Yep.
And the public votes against it. If you wanted to outlaw eating chicken nuggets from McDonald's, you could do it tomorrow if you had enough money to run commercials of chickens being slaughtered.
Sure.
And put it on TV.
City do that?
Huh?
Did New York City do? No, it's soda.
Oh, it's soda, yeah. No, it's a valid point, yes.
Purely on emotion.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. You're triggering an emotional response versus anything based on science or true information that backs it up.
And you walk into any grocery store to pick up your dinner, buy some chicken breasts or some steak or hamburger. There's an animal that had to be killed for that to be in that nice clean package for you.
Yep.
It's not pretty to see an animal killed.
No,
it's not pretty to see a cow gutted or a pig gutted or shot in the head.
Right.
But that's how you make sausage. That's how you make pork chops.
Yep.
Right.
So
the misconception here is, the fact is there are way more people in the state of Washington that do not hunt and fish, right? We're in the minority no matter what it is we're fighting for. When we're talking about recovering our salmon or steelhead, or opening up access, or wolf management, or whatever it is that is connected to us in the outdoors, we're in a minority. And when persons decide that initiative is the way to go to stop that unnecessary behavior, all they got to do is, as you say, dump enough money into it, put the propaganda out there, and sway the majority to make it happen. Now, it doesn't affect anything they're doing on their day-to-day lives. They could care less if people are out there fishing because they don't fish, they don't hunt, they don't do any of it. But they have the power with a strike of a pen to change what it is we enjoy doing.
Right.
And I think the message folks need to realize is that is the misconception. You think, oh, don't go vote because our vote doesn't matter. But if we sit back idle and let the majority make the votes for us, that's why we continue to lose stuff.
Absolutely.
And I just found that in your book, the way you tied it in with the hound hunting and how that actually unfolded and why it is. And now Barnum and I talk about predation in predator encounters, albeit bears, cats, and wolves now throughout the state. We follow that stuff regularly. We have children drug off by cats in downtown Leavenworth in the middle of the day.
And that's what I was going to add, Dwayne. You said at the time of that vote back in 1996, to the average soccer mom, it didn't matter.
Nobody cared.
It's like predator populations were under control because of the use of hounds mating. They were under control, but now here we are 20 years later, 22, 23 years later, and now that matters.
Higher frequency of encounters, right?
So the vote at that time didn't matter, but now that vote that you made 20 years ago matters, and that's why it's important
that your mom made.
Voters get out to the polls.
There's always cause and effect.
So if you're utilizing recreational hunters and fishers to help manage and utilize their resources for conservation measures, you're heading down the right path. When you remove hunting and fishing and those types of activities, then think you're going to manage game and keep everything in checks and balances, you're going to fall behind. And it's been proven.
It's not, they outlawed hound hunting for cougars and bobcats, right? Mm-hmm. It's not that those animals aren't being killed. They're not being killed by recreational hunters. They're being killed by the state now.
Yep.
There was over 120 of them killed in the eastern counties just this year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sheriff Bob Songer down in Klickitat County, they have so many cougars down there that are coming into populated areas that anytime someone calls the sheriff's office to report a cougar sighting, then he has deputized people with hounds, and they go out and they tree the cougar and they kill it.
Yeah.
Right. They get rid of it. They don't euthanize it and move it 2 miles down the road because it's going to come right back.
Right.
And they're way overpopulated. And that's what our sheriffs need to start doing.
And
it's public safety.
Right. And so now the tab used to be, brunted by recreational hunters.
Right.
Houndsmen going out to hunt, actually successful in treeing cats and taking them and using them to feed their families or whatever. And now it's completely flipped. It's become a problem with the number of cats, and now the state's having to actually pay out money to get it done versus persons buying licenses to go do that activity. It's completely backwards, and this type of stuff, it takes way too much time to figure it out. It's like, it's been 20 years or plus. It's time to make a change because you, as you just stated, recognize you have certain counties that are inundated with this, and it's an ongoing issue, and yet there's nobody coming forward with a flag to say, here's the resolution, here's what we need to do now, right? Because what we're doing is not working. Because
our current governor sits his ass in Olympia or runs around the United States trying to be the president. And doesn't get out and see what's actually happening around the state.
Not even on his radar. And we talked at dinner, Barnum, you'll recall, not too long ago, we discussed the fact that Inslee overstepped his bounds by firing off the letter to Kelly Suswin, director of WDFW, told them to stop killing wolves. Because the practice of killing wolves was getting a lot of heat from populated areas that know nothing about what's going on the east side, and they're calling them out to say, they're killing way too many wolves. Well, they're actually going through the regimented criteria with the wolf management plan. They have a process they go through, and when it gets to the point of extermination, they've exhausted all other means to a point, right? So that was happening. Wolves are being exterminated. It was a control measure. Is it the best case scenario when you're trying to bring the populations back to finally delist them? No, we've had multiple discussions on this. But it just shows you how out of touch Inslee is with outdoors, predation management, predator management, fisheries management, all these things going on that he is oblivious to when he simply sits down at his desk or has a staffer fire a letter off to Kelly Suswin and let him know that, hey, this is my stance on this. And he's completely wrong. Out of touch. So, okay. We got much more to get through. Appreciate you breaking down your history for you there. That's a good story. I enjoy hearing that in the progression of where you're at. So, much more to cover. Barnum, we're going to jump into WDFW funding, the lack of funding, commission seats. As you sit yourself at the desk of the governor's seat, you'll have to deal with replacing some commissioners in the future. That's a heavy burden to take on, one that you actually are looking forward to.
I'm very much looking forward to that. Like I said, I've been a hunter all my life.
And you've seen what the current appointees on that commission, the direction some of our things have gone in the last several years relative to processes of managing fisheries, rolling back on decisions that were made, this in and out kind of process. So we're going to jump into that, jump into commission, we're going to jump into bipartisan support. How do we get WDFW funded? How do we get legislators to jump on board, get us the money we need to make sure we are exercising all opportunities out there for recreational hunters and anglers? We're going to talk about land access, which you're very passionate about, and one that I think you'll respond to very well. How critical is it that we hire more enforcement officers out there in the woods and on the water? So lots more to get through here with Loren Culp as we walk down this road of him guiding his path to ultimately the victory in the governor's seat. And we're going to break all that down relative to WDFW and a whole lot more when we come back right after this break.
At Metal Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. We're here in the kitchen for the recipe of the week with Chef Kelly. As usual, I see you have a lot going on.
Yes, we're going to make an appetizer called Dungeness Crab sopes with a red chili crema.
Sopes with a red chili crema.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, sopes are this right here. This is so what it is the same stuff you would make tamales with. You would use masa. But we're going to make it a little more like Play-Doh texture.
That's not
and then
moussaka?
No, not moussaka. Oh my God. I can't work in these conditions.
Oh geez, okay. All right, I'll try to do better next time, Chef.
Okay, so let's make our masa. So the masa, each one's kind of a little bit different. This is a dry powder, and you're just going to add some water and a little bit of salt, and there you go. And what we're shooting for is kind of like a Play-Doh texture. You can see it's kind of firm, just like that. Okay.
Play-Doh that Harper could eat.
Yeah, you can eat it raw.
We don't want to go that. Maybe we won't have her help.
Yeah, right.
Trying to get her not to eat that stuff.
So usually what I do is I kind of press it together to make it come together first, and then I kind of work on the edges.
Okay.
So you want to really exaggerate that edge, because when you fry it, it kind of gets knocked down because the center kind of tries to puff up. You'll see what I mean.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're just kind of don't want any cracks. That's just cracks are no bueno.
Bueno.
No bueno.
No bueno. Bueno.
Okay. Now you can go to the Mexican market and buy sopes already made. I'm not a big fan of them. I like making my own.
Of course you do, Chef.
And to pick them up, you just use your knife.
Wow.
And there you go.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy. We're going to go ahead and start frying that guy up.
Okay.
Right there. Okay, so while that's frying, we're going to work on our Dungeness crab salad. So I have about 1/4 pound of picked Dungeness crab meat.
Okay.
And today we are not going to use mayonnaise with our crab meat. We're going to do something a little bit different.
Oh.
And we're going to use about a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Make sure we season.
Salt.
I use kosher salt.
Kosher salt.
Okay, about 2 tablespoons of red bell pepper. Just want a little bit of color, yeah.
Yep.
About a tablespoon of diced cilantro. And we'll just do like a teaspoon and a half of crab salad of lime juice.
Lime juice.
Okay.
You're making crab salad.
Yes.
Yes.
1 shallot, finely diced, or brunoise is what's really called. Yes, that's what it's called.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
You know, you could throw out anything, and I believe you.
Okay.
When it comes to cooking, Chef.
I've seen the
Only
Bigfoot.
when it comes to cooking.
Okay, so I like a lot of avocado, so we're gonna add it in at the end, so we don't make guacamole out of this thing. And
Show
just
them what that looks like.
All right, nice color in there. A little lighter than, you know, adding, you know, mayonnaise in there.
Right.
You know, a little healthier. How's our sope look?
It's coming up in the middle. Like you said, puffing a little bit.
Yeah, he's almost there.
Okay.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on it. Okay, so our red chili is going to be guajillo. Yeah, that's pronounced guajillo. The G is.
I'm surprised you didn't ask me to pronounce it first. Thank you.
I'm being nice nowadays, okay?
Well,
Okay.
I was reading the back of this. See?
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So just take your chilies and kind of break them open and dump out your seeds, and then you're going to boil them in about a cup of water until they're soft. Then puree them and then strain it. Make sure you strain it so it's nice and smooth, just like this.
Because the skin is
the
not
skin
good.
is tough.
Yeah.
Right?
And you can get these just in your grocery store in the
Yeah.
Mexican aisle.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, so now we're going to make our red chili crema. That guy's already done. Yeah, if you could put him in there
Sure.
and put some salt on him. Okay, so we're going to call it
Come on.
3 tablespoons of the red chili paste, okay? And then about 1/3 of a cup of sour cream. You can also use Mexican sour cream. It's also called crema. But today we're just using regular sour cream.
Oh, I put a hole in that one.
Oh,
Good thing you
man.
made some other
I
ones.
can't take you anywhere.
I know it. You can't trust me with this stuff.
Okay, just like a teaspoon of lime juice. We'll add a little bit of cilantro for color.
Yeah, and just so that they know,
Make sure you season it too.
when you made these earlier, those ones that we cooked, you put them in here.
Yeah, if you want to get ahead and make some, make sure that you cover them with a wet, damp paper towel.
Okay.
And then wrap them up, because if they dry out, they get too crispy and not crispy in a good way. Kind
Okay.
of thing, okay?
Yeah.
So. All right.
Okay.
And there's our red chili crema. Let's just taste it first.
Okay.
Make sure that we got salt and. Oh, it's delicious.
Of course.
Nailed it.
Nailed it.
Okay, we're gonna put just a little bit down in the middle, to act as our kind of glue. Kind of there, like that.
Yeah.
Okay. That looks horrible, I know.
Oh, can't wait to dig into that one. All of them, I guess.
Right?
Yes.
Just something different from your typical, mayonnaise-based crab salads. So we'll put a little bit extra, a little bit around. Okay.
I'm keeping this fork really close.
You sure now?
Yep.
You said you're a keto, you know.
Okay, I'll just have the crab salad.
Yeah, sure. I'm gonna watch you.
That's how I usually go about it, right?
Right? Okay, guys. So this is our crab salad sopes with red chili crema. It's delicious. A really easy appetizer. You can do it.
Yeah, quick and easy.
Some people will use this as an entree too.
Oh yeah, I would.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and dig in, and we're gonna shoot it back to you guys in the studio. Seriously.
A commercial. Yep. Actually. Hey, welcome back, Fish Hunt Northwest in the studio here. Hopefully you enjoyed that crab soupe. I failed us Barnum. I thought we were coming back to talk with Loren some more. I forgot we had our cooking episode, our cooking segment to jump in there. So thanks for sticking with us through that. It's a fantastic recipe. If you are out crabbing for winter crab opportunity, and there's a lot of it, crabbing's doing fairly well, and that recipe is not only easy to do, but as Chef and Sherry mentioned, it can either be an appetizer or an actual full meal. So really tasty stuff. All right, we're going to jump out for a quick break. We come back, stick with us through the break. We come back, Loren Culp's back here front and center, and we are going to delve into all that is fishing and hunting and a whole lot more right here on FHN.
Sterling is located in Puyallup, Washington. Sterling is your neighborhood quality one-stop shop for your team, outdoor clothing, screen printing, and embroidery. At Sterling, we are passionate about the outdoors and our environment. We only use environmentally safe products. If you fish, chances are you're getting a discount. At Sterling, we take pride in working with the customer to get you exactly what you need. Let us help you with all your screen printing and embroidery needs at sterlingprints.com.
Hey, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. Wayne England, Kelly Barnum in studio, and glad to be back in Studio Barnum as we were out on the road for a bit and missed a few shows, a few weeks. But appreciate all you folks joining us this evening. Loren Culp, current police chief of the town of Republic and running for governor on the Republican ticket, is taking time this evening to spend it here with us at FHN. And hopefully we're not beating you up too bad.
Oh, no. It's good to be back with you. I love talking, hunting, and fishing.
Perfect. Well, we're going to do just that. So as the governor of Washington State, you know, you kind of have an overseeing position in basically forming your Fish and Wildlife Commission, right? Mm-hmm. You basically appoint persons to those seats, and you have final say in them getting in there, and there's some criteria that those folks bring to the table that you have to kind of work your way through and decide if it's a good candidate or not to put into that seat. What would be some of the attributes you would look at for a candidate who's going to be representing all the different counties throughout Washington State, the 9 different prospective zones, of what makes that person a good candidate as a commissioner on that seat? Yeah. Right.
As a lot of your viewers probably know, the Fish and Wildlife Commission has a big hand in what happens with our Fish and Wildlife in the state.
Right.
The director is not appointed by the governor. You know, that department is under control of the Fish and Wildlife Commission.
Right.
And so those are very important appointees. Mm-hmm. And I would make sure if there were any openings that I appointed people who are really hunters and go fishing and have spent most of their life, good part of their life, in the outdoors.
Sure.
Not just as bird watchers, but as real hunters, real fishermen or women.
There's obviously a tremendous economic boost to the economy if we have a robust WDFW platform, and plenty of opportunity for folks to get involved with out there. And I would have to assume you recognize that it is it's a good opportunity that this state is not maximizing, as
Absolutely.
in we should have a lot more money going back into the state via recreational folks getting out there and doing what it is we love to do. You know, what are some things you think maybe need to be changed to fully fund WDFW, to get them the money through legislation or whatever the process would be, because they continue to. We have all these different programs throughout the state, obviously, right? We're talking schools, healthcare, support programs, I mean, infrastructure, all these things. WDFW seems to be at the end of the line year in and year out, and has been since the downturn of the economy in 2008. They have been one branch that has not received the funds that they need to continue. They're told to maintain operations, but then it's like, well, we're not going to give you money to do so, but figure it out. What are some things you think need to change to allocate monies towards WDFW to give us an opportunity and get them back on par?
Well, first you need a person in the governor's seat who knows the difference between a white-tailed deer and an elephant.
Yeah, good point.
I don't think if he was in the field he would be able to identify either one.
Right.
So that's first of all. Leadership obviously needs to change. That's why I'm running for governor.
Right.
And you have to have it a priority. Right now, it's not a priority, obviously. Jay Inslee doesn't hunt.
Right.
Doesn't fish, as far as I know.
No.
And so if you have people in leadership positions that it's not a priority, then it's going to just be put off in the corner. And hunters and fishermen are the greatest environmentalists there are.
Right.
You know, we hear about the environmentalist movement. Well, hunting and fishing has put $20 billion into habitat through the Roberts Pittman Act.
Sure.
Over the years.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
And hunters and fishermen care about the environment because we are out in the environment. We live in the environment. So having people who have the priorities correct when it comes to that type of thing is very important. And I will bring that.
Yeah.
Right, yeah, it's important to understand that WDFW, I mean, they just don't manage hunting and fishing. They manage endangered species. They manage all wildlife and, you know, wildlife habitat and restoration. And you think a party and a governor who is the champion of the environment that he claims to be would be a lot more apt to make sure the agency that's in charge of making sure our wildlife is happy and flourishing would be a champion of funding the department.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Like, it's confusing.
This state, with the resources that we have, you know, we have a number of rivers, lakes. We have the ocean on one side. We have the Strait of Juan de Fuca. We have Puget Sound. And then all the rivers that come out of the mountains in between. Yeah. This should be a destination for people all across the United States and Canada to come to fish and hunt. But it's not, because it's been mismanaged for so many years. People that I know that can afford it leave this state and go to other states to hunt.
Right.
So like Idaho and Montana, for by example, are some of the, you know, when you follow social media and you see all these folks posting pictures of their success, there are so many pictures inundated from Washingtonians who are the grip and grin with their kill from Idaho or Montana. Millions of dollars are leaving our state.
They are.
Whereas it'll take a while to get hunting back to that caliber, but you know, as far as our fisheries and all those areas you just mentioned, I mean, I look at it, say Puget Sound, the ocean fisheries, Puget Sound, Willapa, Grace Harbor, Columbia Basin, those should all be destination fisheries if they're managed right. And the fact is, they've cut the monies for WDFW. They've cut the hatchery programs. They've been inundated with all these private groups that come in and slap lawsuits against WDFW in the state of Washington. Makes it very hard to move forward in exercising at full capacity to provide programs and opportunity for the population boom we're experiencing, right? So what's the mechanism to make that more of a priority? Awareness? Make sure that it's like on the radar, not just like, oh by the way, we gotta pick up that scrap there on the floor of WDFW and throw them a bone. I mean, to me, it sounds like
throw another culvert in on the road and we're going to call her good.
Right.
You know, that's not what needs to be done, and it's going to take leadership from the top.
So recognizing it as a priority and secure the funding, right? And work with legislation. We had that conversation where we recognize that and all these other programs that dig into the state's budget. You know, it's a dollar out, it's a dollar gone. In WDFW and Opportunity and with recreational fishing and hunting, it's a dollar out, it's $3.40 back into the economy. I think you'd be hard pressed as governor to find anything else in your line items of budget to find that type of kickback into the economy on all these other programs. So we have been waiting for somebody who would recognize WDFW and running it efficiently, fully funded, to make sure they can introduce the programs that they're falling way behind on to keep up with the demands. Nobody is willing to sit down and have that conversation to make it a priority. Sounds to me like you recognize the importance of that and are willing to make that a priority.
Absolutely. Like I said, I'm a lifelong resident of Washington State. I've lived in Chimacum and Elma, Olympia, and Republic, and I've hunted all my life. I shot my first deer when I was 8.
Yeah.
I shot my first elk when I was 12.
Right.
And that's a good, clean food that goes in the freezer.
Yep.
We just had some of it tonight.
We did
and
have
there's
some.
nothing better. You know where your food comes from
Exactly.
when you take a hands-on approach and take care of it that way.
Yep.
Same with fish.
Yep.
And it just needs to be made a priority. And
Yep.
I will make it a priority.
Fantastic.
Right, so let's talk a little bit about, as you talk more about hunting and even fishing, let's talk a little bit about issues that have plagued kind of that entire industry over the last couple of years with land access. We have more and more large private timber companies locking up their land, charging access fees. We have Discover passes. We have, landlocked state lands, landlocked national forest lands that we need access through private to get to those areas, and we're not getting that access. What can you do as governor, or what would be a plan for you to help hunters and fishermen and even outdoor recreators of all kinds, hikers, whatever, to gain access to these lands again?
Right. Well, that's a big shame, what's been going on not only on our state lands, but on the federal lands. They've been blocking off road access since the 90s,
right.
The early 90s. When I was working construction, running my own business around Olympia, almost every weekend, my boys and I would take our dogs and we'd go out the Olympic Peninsula, out by Shelton, and we would go hunting. And it seemed like every weekend there was a new road being dug out or gated and access cut off. And that not only keeps the citizens off of our land, our land, right? It's our land. It's not the government's land.
Right.
It's the citizens, because we are the government. It keeps us out. But it also, when there's a catastrophic wildfire, there's no access. They've some of those roads they've completely taken out.
Right.
Not just dug them out or gated them. They've taken them completely out. So there's no way to get in to fight these fires.
Yeah.
And so they just keep on burning.
Right.
So it's not only the access, but it's for the citizens, but it's fighting wildfires as well.
Right.
That's a great segue into forestry management. I know you have an issue with the way our forests have been managed for a number of years now, and the upgrowth and undergrowth of out of control levels, and when these fires take off, they're completely out of control. And it's not just like 1 or 2 seasons. This has become a repetitive annual event here in Washington, not just on the east side, but now we're seeing it on the west side of the North Cascades and whatnot. I don't see a plan. I mean, Hillary has put some information out there that she's planning to move forward with some forestry management stuff. I just don't see a whole lot of things happening in the very near future on forestry management, unless I'm missing the boat, and maybe somebody will correct me. But would you have a plan to make that also a priority? Because managing the forest is every bit as a priority as managing for clean water and managing our fisheries and waterways.
I would ask people, when is the last time you saw a catastrophic wildfire on timber company property?
That's a valid point, yeah.
I don't know of anyone ever. They manage their forest.
Right.
They clean it up, they thin it, and they log it.
Yep.
It's a renewable resource.
Right.
And they manage it like a farm.
Yeah.
But the state doesn't.
Right.
The dead and dying diseased trees are just left to rot.
It's just fire tinder.
It's fuel.
Yeah.
Yeah, and instead of spending millions and millions of dollars every year to fight these catastrophic wildfires, and there's human life loss.
Sure.
There's homes lost.
Yep.
Why don't we take that money that we spend millions of dollars and then also have to replace these buildings? People have to rebuild.
Right.
Why don't we take those millions of dollars, instead of using it as a reactionary tool, why don't we go in and manage our forests, especially where private and public land meet, and manage that.
Be proactive, right?
Instead of out in the middle where nobody's going to be even bothered, but put that money where homes could be lost, lives could be lost, and have a public-private partnership in some areas to get the forest managed, thinned, and clean up the carbon off of the forest floor.
Create that buffer.
Exactly.
Right? Create that buffer.
It's a win-win because you curb wildfire, you take public safety, but imagine how many jobs you're going to create back in the rural areas. If you kick up your timber industry again like it used to be back in the 60s and 70s when it was booming. And we have millions and millions of houses in America that need built with this population boom, and we're not harvesting a renewable resource that's right in front of us to build those houses, which will create jobs and provide millions of dollars at economy. I mean,
and we're seeing a change in that coming from the federal level.
Yeah.
Over in Ferry County, there's a lot of federal land, federal national forests, and they're logging it now. They're thinning it. Yep.
Yeah.
They're thinning it, and not only are they thinning it, but they're going in afterwards and they're cleaning up all of the undergrowth, the dead and dying pieces.
Yeah.
In order to prevent these catastrophic wildfires. And Jay Inslee will tell you it's because of global climate change. It is not. Fires burn. They start with lightning. A lot of times they start from humans. A lot of times, and if you have less fuel on the ground and in the trees, then it's not going to be such a catastrophic fire.
Right.
It's just common sense.
Back a number of years when I was logging, we were doing selective cut, thinning jobs for private timber companies, Plum Creek and a handful of others. We were doing thinning jobs because it was exactly for that. It was fire prevention. It was for the health of the forest. You get better product growing out of the trees that remain when you give them a spacing. It's just good common sense forestry management. And for whatever reason, state lands have just been kind of pushed off, and we don't have budget. We don't have time. They don't have budget because they don't make budget. They don't make it a priority, and it's reactionary versus doing it preventative. So I'm glad to hear you recognize that issue, and moving forward is something that definitely needs to happen. What's your thoughts about? I forget the statistic. There's a number out there. Maybe we'll look it up. But there is a number of enforcement officers working under WDFW. It's not very many. And there are a couple enforcement officers in some of these larger counties, especially on the east side, that have a whole lot of real estate to cover. And when it gets to hunting season and opportunities for folks to be out there in the woods and toting guns and things, there's a lot of illegal activity going on in our state relative to poaching, wild game, and of course fishing and whatnot. There's just no enforcement. What is the cure to ensuring that we can provide more enforcement officers under the WDFW umbrella to give them the tools they need to make sure that things are going, in the right direction?
Yeah, definitely. I know wildlife officers, and I've worked with them. They are good people, good family people, and they care about our wildlife and our game. And it's their job to oversee, the harvest, make sure people aren't taking more than they're supposed to. We definitely need more. I know we have one over there in the corner of the state, and he's all over the place. I mean, we hardly even see him because he's just all over the place all the time. So definitely it needs to be stepped up. Well,
I guess it's, to me, it's one of those things that, I guess you got to make it a priority, and recognize that we've been asking for more enforcement for years on all facets of recreating in the outdoors, and it's not WDFW's fault. They don't have the money in the budget to bring on more folks. I guess it comes back to funding.
That's the answer. They need to be funded.
Right.
The number is 140.
For the state.
For the state.
Yeah. 140 for the state. Yeah. I was thinking it was like 127, but 140. It's not very many out there.
Right.
When the state is open for hunting, that's a lot of geography to cover, right? There's a lot of miles to cover. And so I would hope, as governor, you recognize the importance of bringing on more enforcement. I mean, these are sworn officers, right?
Yes.
The WDFW enforcement used to be, they're wildlife enforcement. They are sworn officers, right?
They're certified peace officers.
Peace officer, yep, exactly. So
just like a police officer or deputy sheriff.
Right. Yep. Sworn peace officer. They go through academy, they go through the whole deal as part of their training. So, okay, real good. Much more to get through. We're going to step a little bit out of talking wildlife management, fisheries, and hunting and those types of things. Just for a little bit here, we do have to talk about homeless crisis, drug epidemic, and a handful of other things going on under the watch of our current governor that's just completely gone out of control here in the state of Washington throughout a number of cities that are like on the radar at the national level, which is very embarrassing to say the least. You have some pretty sound advice and some good plans, I think, how to deal with homeless and opioid epidemic and stuff. So don't go anywhere. Jump out for a couple-minute break here. We come back, more with Loren Culp. We're going to tackle this homeless issue and probably going to open your eyes as to what the actual solution would be when we're dealing with homeless and drug epidemic here in the state of Washington. We'll be right back here on FHN.
Sterl Inc. is located in Puyallup, Washington. Sterl Inc. is your neighborhood quality one-stop shop for your team, outdoor clothing, screen printing, and embroidery. At Sterl Inc., we are passionate about the outdoors and our environment. We only use environmentally safe products. If you fish, chances are you're getting a discount. At Sterl Inc., we take pride in working with the customer to get you exactly what you need. Let us help you with all your screen printing and embroidery needs at sterlinkprints.com.
Hey, welcome back to Fish Hunt Northwest. Told you it'd be a short break. We like to just get in and out and get you right back in the hot seat here. So, hey, you have a fundraiser Q&A meet and greet tomorrow night in Stanwood. What do you know about that?
Yes, I'm going to be there.
Oh, well, that's
probably important.
They're coming to see you, right?
Yeah. We're inviting everybody out to Stanwood. It's going to be at the, I believe it's Republican headquarters up there. And hoping to see everybody out there. We're going to have a little silent auction, and I'll be there to meet everybody and give a little speech and tell everybody what I'm standing up for.
Sure, a little Q&A, and come meet Loren Culp. And where can they find that info? Culp for Governor on social media?
Yeah, we have a website,
okay.
culpforgovernor.com, and then we're on Facebook at Culp for Governor.
Okay.
Is there a way for people to donate to your campaign on that website?
Definitely, okay. Yes. On the website, we need financial help, and we need volunteers. We can't do this alone.
Okay.
I'm just a small town cop. I don't have millions of dollars in the bank.
Yep.
So yeah, if they go to our website at culpforgovernor.com,
perfect.
There's a donation link on there.
Perfect. All right, get on culpforgovernor.com and hit that donate button. Let's start supporting this man as he moves forward in his campaign. Speaking of which, as governor, you get the luxury of inheriting this homeless epidemic, this opioid epidemic. Let's back up and kind of break down how this thing evolved. First of all, certain cities, certain city councils, certain governors have pulled back the ability for police to enforce, if I'm not mistaken. They've kind of taken a step back in laws. They've taken a step back in enforcing what used to be recognized as either a misdemeanor or an actual infraction of some level. And they're like, it's okay to have 3 ounces of heroin, or it's okay to shoot up in the street, or it's okay to defecate in the street, or nobody cares. How did that happen, and how do we get that back to a law enforcement level that is normal in society?
Well, there are public nuisance laws on the books and have been for years.
Right.
It's a felony to possess heroin in this state.
Currently.
It doesn't matter how much it is. Yes, currently.
Is that a state law?
It's a state law. It's an RCW. It's a felony to possess any amount of heroin.
Right.
Even just the tip of a pin amount is a felony in this state. And what's happening in a lot of counties around the Seattle area is the prosecutors will not prosecute for possession of heroin for any certain amount. It was 3 grams or less of heroin, and I was told yesterday that it's now up to 7 grams. 3 grams of heroin is enough for a 2-week supply for a heroin user.
That's ridiculous.
That's a lot of heroin.
Yeah.
And if you reward bad behavior, you're going to get more bad behavior.
Right.
Okay, so what would attract more people to an area that they are heroin users than decriminalizing heroin?
Right.
It's a magnet to people all over the country.
Right.
We can come to Washington State, we can get food stamps, we can have our heroin and shoot it up anytime we want. We can use the streets as a toilet, and we can throw our litter everywhere, and nobody's going to do anything about it.
Right.
So what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah.
More and more people are coming from all across the country to come to places like Seattle. And that's why we're seeing what we're seeing right now.
If that was in a different spectrum, I mean, if it was like, well, we don't have the ability to prosecute all these folks, so if they want to walk into a store and load a shopping cart full of groceries and just wheel it out to their truck without paying, we're just going to look the other way because we don't have the time or the effort to prosecute these folks.
Well, guess what? That's happening.
That's basically, well, yeah, there's that too.
It is happening. If you walk into a store in King County and you come out of that store with less than $50 worth of goods, the police won't even write up a report.
So police have lost the ability to police.
Fault.
Right.
It's their leadership's fault.
Yeah. So how is it that counties and or cities can overwrite state-recognized law and just continue to do that and think it's okay? To me, it doesn't sound like they're policing for the betterment of the people. They're not taking action on the streets to make sure that the majority folks are safe and don't have to deal with this stuff. They're catering to a minority, which is a tremendous nuisance, and it's disturbing to see all that happening in front of our eyes. Our kids are being raised up around this stuff, and city councils and persons in government and law enforcement, and everybody's just turning a blind eye to it like it's just going to go away. And you have city councils up north that are like, we're just going to build a bunch of housing and provide them places to live to get them off the streets. Is that the answer to this issue?
A lot of people think it is.
Yeah.
Even some Republicans think that that's the answer.
And it's not.
We can build houses, tiny houses or big houses, whatever. We can just build a bunch of houses and get these people off the street.
Right.
Well, housing is not the problem.
Right.
Housing, for the vast majority, it's not the problem. It's the addiction and the mental health problem.
Right.
I have stood in a family home that had nice furniture. Everybody had nice clothes. There was lots of food. And I've stood in a home where the mom is hysterical. I'm trying to comfort the mom because their 20-year-old son is stiff as a board, half on and half off of his bed with a heroin needle in his arm.
Right.
That wasn't because he didn't have housing, didn't have food, didn't have clothing.
Right.
It's because he was an addict.
Yep. And
addicts are not going to stop heroin use because they want to one day. They're not going to wake up and go, I'm
done with this.
I'm not going to do this anymore.
Right.
They have to be forced into treatment.
Yep.
And that's what I've done over in Ferry County in Republic, is we've had strict enforcement and compassionate treatment at the same time. So the strict enforcement comes along when I arrest someone for a drug offense, either dealing or using, and they get taken to jail.
Right.
I'm the worst person in the world to that person right then.
Sure.
Right?
Yep.
They go to jail, they see the judge, and the judge forces them into treatment.
Mm-hmm.
Whether they're going to prison or they're going to jail or they're going to be released, they have to go through treatment, right? And if they don't go through treatment, then they end up spending more time in jail. A lot of them, most of them, I would say, go through the treatment because they realize, you know, that they're in jail and they haven't had their heroin for a couple of days. They're very, very sick.
Oh yeah.
And some of them wake up and realize, you know, I got to do something. So they go along with the program. And I've had people come back from prison or treatment, and in a short time, they've got their kids back, which they lost because they were a drug addict.
Sure.
They get a job, they buy a home, and they get married, and they're a family, healthy family, and have a life, and they're part of society again. And they come back and thank me and tell me that I saved their life.
So this has become a major epidemic. I mean, to the borderline, it's out of control with the amount of, as you said, garbage in tent cities and tiny homes, and the number of folks living on the streets. In this time of year, particularly difficult with the weather and the conditions. Did you ever see Eric Johnson's report on Como? I believe it was Seattle's dying. I felt he was spot on with his direction in taking, I believe it was McNeil Island, that is at minimal capacity and could be, you know, built into this area of putting these folks into a program, putting them into, I mean, is that what you're talking about? Some type of large scale, like you're arrested, you go through the process, you have a choice. You either go to jail or you go to a program. And you put them in this lockdown, like I believe his comparable was Rhode Island. And they had an extremely high success rate of these folks coming out of it. In other words, it's no longer acceptable just to do this behavior in the streets and pollute our cities and pollute our rivers, because a lot of these encampments are along rivers. They tout the Green Deal. They talk about you know, the environment and all the things they're doing for clean water and stuff, and yet our rivers are surrounded by homeless encampments, defecation into the waterways, garbage into the water, all this pollution going into the water under their watch, and yet they're not doing anything about it. Is having a facility, you know, a large-scale facility, or also, you know, spread out throughout different counties and whatnot, but is that like the ultimate goal? And would you be able to find funding measures to ensure that that type of program could be introduced? The
danger with just creating housing for these people?
Well, I'm talking about programs, and you know, like you're arrested, you're going to jail. It's a jail/rehab process with counselors, doctors. It's a program. You're in lockdown. You're going to be here for 3 years on this program to get clean and sober and back on your feet before you're
that's called prison.
Yeah.
Right. And if we need more of them, we can build more of them.
Okay.
You know, not everyone's going to need to go to prison.
Sure.
You know, but the thing that people don't realize too is taxpayers are funding this drug epidemic.
Right.
I've never arrested a drug dealer who didn't have multiple EBT cards. That's the food stamp cards.
Yeah.
They didn't have multiple people's EBT cards in their wallet.
They accept those as payment for their drug dealing?
Yeah. Yes. People will get that filled at the beginning of the month, the $300, $400, $500, I don't know how much money, depending on how many kids they have.
Sure.
And then they'll take that to the drug dealer, and they'll trade their card for drugs.
Right.
Pennies on the dollar.
And then the drug dealer will take that card and go to the store, buy whatever he wants to buy, and then sell it or keep it for his own use.
Yeah.
I've never arrested a drug dealer without multiple cards.
What are your thoughts about persons who are on assistance through the state-assisted programs, EBT cards, housing, cell phones, and it goes deeper than that, medical care and all those things, all those state-supported programs? There's no accountability to ensure that these people are not using drugs.
Well, we can't do that. That'd be inhumane, right? I mean, only working hard, playing hard Americans who have a job should be subject to drug testing.
Yes, yeah.
For crying out loud.
Yeah, that's the only thing that makes sense.
Yeah, we can't be inhumane to these people.
Right. So,
absolutely, they should be drug tested.
Right.
Just like people who have a job and pay the taxes that they're living off of.
Sure.
You know, the food stamp program and welfare was set up for a helping hand, to lift people up when they had hard times.
Sure.
Right? It wasn't set up to be a career like it is now. It wasn't set up so people could use it to buy drugs.
Or utilize it to raise your family. It's like,
generation after generation. It wasn't ever set up like that.
Right. But that's what it's become.
That's what happens when you have far left-leaning people in charge of things.
Right. Give them everything. The government, it's like the people need us to make it day to day. And we're going to give them all these programs to ensure we remind them how much they need us. And
Ronald Reagan said, government is not the answer. Government is the problem.
Right.
And government just keeps growing bigger and bigger and bigger this state. We've had over 12,500 days of democratic leadership in this state.
Yeah.
And where are we now? We've got people crapping on the sidewalk, dirty needles, tent cities everywhere.
Yep.
A fish and wildlife that is in shambles.
Yep.
People leave here to go fishing and hunting, not come here.
Right.
So that's where we are.
Yeah.
So do we want to continue that, or do we want to give someone a chance who has a little bit of common sense?
Right. Yeah, they say the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over, expecting a different outcome. So we continue to vote Democratic every single year, position of governor, and we get the same thing over and over, which is more regulation, more waste, more of the same garbage. And
higher taxes,
higher
regulations.
Right.
Yep.
They never want to tighten the shoestrings and come up with a better budget. They just want to ask more money. More money.
And extend programs.
Right.
Because to them, government is the answer.
Right.
All you have to do is give us more of your tax money, and we'll make some more regulations in another department, and we will take care of the problem.
Right.
Yeah, that's not it.
You have 3 hard and fast bullet points or criteria that has to be met if a bill comes across your desk before you'll sign it. Exactly. I heard you mention it the other night at your speech. What are those?
I've got 3 tests for any bill that comes across my desk as an ex-governor.
Yeah.
Number 1, is it constitutional? Whatever bill they're proposing to become law, is it constitutional? Does the Constitution allow it? Because the Constitution is the rule book for the government.
Yep.
Right? Number 2, will it help the citizens of Washington State? I mean, this is Washington State government.
Yeah.
Right? And we are the government. I'm talking as like I'm already the governor. But our state government.
We the government as the people.
Yeah.
We the people are the government.
Right.
Our government is in place for the people. The people are not in place for the government.
Yeah.
And right now it's the other way around. It's backwards.
Yeah.
So will it help the citizens of Washington State? And number 3, can we afford it?
Right.
Without raising taxes, can we afford it right now? If the first 2 pass, can we afford it? And if any of those 3 are not, and it doesn't fit, then I won't sign that bill. And that's my promise to the citizens of Washington State right now.
So how do we going forward, especially for small business owners, entrepreneurs? The hardest thing has been government regulation, corporate taxes for guys that want to start businesses. What do you have planned in, say, the first year of your governorship to open it up to where business can basically blossom and people can look forward to starting businesses again?
I started my own business in 1988, a couple years after I got out of the U.S. Army. And government didn't help me build that. Right? Government hindered me.
They claim that.
With fees and taxes. And I started my construction business with a 1976 Datsun pickup truck that I bought from my grandpa for $600 on payments.
On payments, that's right, yeah.
Because I had to pay fees to the government to get my license.
Right.
So I set up with my grandpa on payments, and I had a homemade single axle wooden trailer. And I started doing concrete foundations around Olympia. And I had to make multiple trips from job site to job site with that truck and trailer to get my forms because they were so small. But I built that up to multiple trucks, multiple employees, doing jobs big and small all around Puget Sound. And like I say all the time, government didn't help me do that. It hindered me. Every time I turned around, there was a fee I had to pay. There were taxes I had to pay. There were government inspectors coming to my job that had never had a job of their own, didn't know what it was like to run their own business. And they came out there and acted like they owned me and owned my job.
Sure.
So government needs to get off of the backs. We need limited government like our founding fathers designed our country to be. And regulations are something the governor can take care of right off the bat.
Right.
Excessive regulations hurt business. They strangle businesses. And that's something that from day one I can start eliminating.
Right. Cut through the red tape. Give people a chance.
Right.
Right.
Get government off of our back, out of our pocketbook.
Yep. All right, fantastic. We're gonna jump out for a quick break. We come back. We're gonna jump back into talking some more about a whole host of things relative to our recovery of salmon and steelhead, predation, orca survival plan. I got a whole host of things written down. North of Falcon process. You know, how do you as governor look upon this interactivity we have with our tribal co-managers? It's a pretty, at times, contentious relationship, and other times folks who are with WDFW say, oh, it's harmonious, we're doing fine. But, you know, when you're sitting here waiting for decisions to be made, it doesn't always look like everything's so peachy, you know. So there's a lot of issues going on there. For 12,500 days, the state's been under Democratic rule, and the tribes tend to lean towards the Democrats. There's a lot of pocket lining going on with campaign contributions, you know, from the tribes, the casino money, the bingo halls. That's a lot of money. And obviously in this state it's been proven that money gets things done. So we're just going to kind of walk down that road and see where you're at as far as some of these very apparent issues that go on amongst our fishing and hunting and an opportunity and co-management. So we'll jump into all that when we come back from this break right here on FHN. A lot of people still tuning in.
Good. What do we got? 2 minutes?
Yep. About 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
This is all a donation.
Awesome.
Huh?
You want to come outside for a second? Oh, what do you got, Nick?
Is that my coffee?
I think, is that my coffee? Did she bring me one? It's in there.
Who got water?
I did.
Water and coffee. Coffee's probably left.
That's right.
How we doing?
Good.
She didn't bring me a fizzy water?
Oh, maybe this is your fizzy.
Okay, so we're going to talk about...
Is that water?
Water.
Is
It's
it?
water.
Yeah, that woman.
It smells raspberry.
She hates me. Does it?
Right?
And we need to divide by the
treaty.
Yeah.
Treaties have been forgotten.
They can hear us talking through the commercial.
Ultimately, what does the treaty say? That's something that he
Jesus.
talked about, just kind of went off.
Okay.
Sterl Inc. is located in Puyallup, Washington. Sterl Inc. is your neighborhood quality one-stop shop for your team, outdoor clothing, screen printing, and embroidery. At Sterl Inc., we are passionate about the outdoors and our environment. We only use environmentally safe products. If you fish, chances are you're getting a discount. At Sterl Inc., we take pride in working with the customer to get you exactly what you need. Let us help you with all your screen printing and embroidery needs at sterlinkprints.com.
Hey, welcome back, Fish Hunt Northwest. Settle back in your seat.
All good.
Yeah, ran a hot lap out there.
Stiff drink of water right here, too.
We had a couple hot mics during the break, so I hope you enjoyed the discussion on fizzy water. Fizzy water brought to you by Fish Hunt Northwest, because if you're not fizzing, you're not watering. So I have no idea what that means. Anyway, so obviously under Inslee's watch, there was a task force developed to try and find solutions to our starving orcas. A lot of it comes back to the fact that there's a lack of salmon production. You know, at the core of it, we've had, again, private groups suing, slapping lawsuits against WDFW, tremendous cutbacks on hatchery production. thinking that with all the work going on, even with the habitat rebuild and all the money being spent, that we're going to bring these fish back in short order just by natural fish spawning. They've crammed that down the throats of a lot of people for 20 plus years, and we've realized that the wild fish are just not going to make a comeback fast enough to feed our orcas. And so then the orcas became an issue, and they formed a committee, a task force, if you will. They came out with 49 to 50 recommendations on things that need to be done, working towards the recovery of salmon and predominantly the orcas. You're on the east side of the state. You probably hear bits and pieces of what's going on relative to the orcas, but as you travel the roads here on the west side and get a lot of these questions, I'm sure you'll get schooled up on it. But my rub here is simply that as of late, WDFW had to come back and ask for an additional $24 million for budget shortfalls to try and get through January, February, going into this next year. If they don't get the money, they're looking at additional cuts, personnel. Quite a number of folks going to lose their jobs. They're going to have to take furlough days. There's a whole lot of things that are going to happen. To me, it doesn't sound like when you allocate $1.5 million to do additional vessel noise in habitat protection studies for the South resident killer whales, $58 million in capital budget funding, including tens of millions that are going to hatchery infrastructure. How, on one hand, can you allocate through his task force millions of dollars for hatchery reform and hatchery infrastructure with the plan to ultimately bring back more salmon? And on the other hand, you stonewall or posture and don't fund WDFW to have the personnel in place to actually carry out the mission. It makes no sense.
Well, this gets back to the common sense that I was talking about with the so-called homeless crisis. Mm-hmm. They're legalizing heroin and then wondering why there's a heroin epidemic, right?
Right.
And common sense isn't just one issue thing. It transcends all things. So if there's a problem with salmon and we're not producing salmon through all of our fish hatcheries, they're not all running at capacity.
Right.
We're not building any more.
Right.
How are we going to fix the problem then?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's where the salmon are going to have to come from in order to get runs in the years to come. Right. And it's been so mismanaged for decades that it's going to take years to rebuild, to get it back. Right. Yeah, well, but it's a start.
I think it's important for people to remember that it doesn't matter if it's on a commercial harvest side or a recreational harvest side. Hatchery fish are what we take.
Yes.
Right? We very rarely get to take a native fish at this point.
Sure.
And that's fine. And we all want to recover native fish runs, but we all also want to take fish home. Whether it's the guy at the Pike Place seafood market catching a salmon that he's going to take home for dinner that was caught by a longliner or whoever, or it's a guy that just put his boat in the water and spent $300 to hopefully catch one, we all want to take fish home.
Yeah.
And for us to take fish home, we have to have hatcheries.
And if you have fish coming out of the hatcheries, released into the streams, they go to the ocean, they come back up the stream, unless someone snips off a fin. Can you tell which is a wild one and which one came from a hatchery years ago?
No.
Exactly.
No.
So yeah, I'm against naming fish that.
Right.
First of all, they're freaking salmon, right?
Yeah.
But we need to increase the output from our hatcheries, and we need to build more hatcheries. Otherwise, we're gonna be in this same situation in 10 years from now, or worse.
Population's over 7.5 million, right? And
if orcas eat salmon, then we need to feed the orcas.
Yeah.
Right? Who doesn't like to go out in a boat and see a bunch of freaking orcas around, right?
They've recognized the need for that. I guess it's a matter of prioritizing how you allocate the funding to ensure. It's great to have a committee. I don't want to get off track here, but it's like they did a bird predation study that lasted 11 years. And I asked Barnum on the show, what did they find out at 11th year that they didn't know at year 4 or 5? In the predation on the steelhead smolt and the out-migrating smolt. It's like they have a task force. They recognize 49 or 50 things that need to be accomplished to ensure the survivability of the orcas. Okay, you recognize that, and you come out with a budget of I'll dig it up here. Maybe I won't. Heck with it. You come out with a budget of 17.5% increase, $8 billion more than for 2017 and 2019, and you allocate millions upon millions of dollars for orca recovery. But it's a Band-Aid approach because a majority of those things that you've stated need to be done aren't funded and aren't getting done. So what's the point? What's the point to go back and revisit and recognize we need to now do this, we need to now do that, but you don't allocate the monies to do that? So I guess as governor, I'm asking that somebody steps in and recognize the importance of that. It all, for Barnum and I, ties into WDFW overall, recognize the importance and the economic value of this state, both in the realm of hunting and fishing. And if you want to put a label on it and say it's salmon recovery, it's orca recovery, it's managing our herd animals to a higher level for more successful hunting opportunities, all those across the board collectively, it's like that's a big red button that needs to be stamped on, right? And so
Absolutely.
Somebody needs to step in and allocate the monies towards that and quit putting it at the end of the line. And I think that's what the several hundred thousand of folks in this state are asking a governor to do. Put it as a priority in the state of Washington once again. And as you stated earlier, Loren, make some of this an opportunity and a destination opportunity for persons outside of our state and draw more monies into our economy.
Yep.
Rebolster the economy, make it so the mom and pop shop can make it.
Exactly. Yep.
If the fish runs return, if the wildlife returns, the money will be there.
The money's coming.
It's crazy to think that it won't be. We've already said how, $1 in equals what, $3.40 out for an average fisher or hunterman. And it's like, if you put the fish in the river, if you put the deer and elk in the fields, in the mountains, the money will be there.
I know you have a lot of, you have to get your head wrapped around a lot of things relative to the North of Falcon process, dealing with the tribes as co-managers. From a recreational perspective, the tribes run our state. In the realm of fishing, and when they sit at the table year in and year out, I like to be optimistic and say WDFW has a strong stake in the negotiations as to what happens at North of Falcon. But the other side of me says that's not necessarily the case, because all too often it seems that we take a back seat on things that the tribes push across the table, and WDFW either has to accept it, and if they don't, we don't go fishing, as proven back in 2015, 2016. Permitting from NOAA is a process where they have to come together collectively and agree on that. I just would like to think that a governor of our state recognizes the loss of opportunity for the citizens of Washington State, the taxpayers of this state, and the monies that go in to fund WDFW, and the monies that go into the general fund, and the monies that go into the Fish and Wildlife Fund, and for us to get our fair share and to have our share at the table. And if it needs to come to a level of going back into the courts to revisit what was originally written in the Bolt decision in 72 and 74, maybe it's time to do that. It's a different world from 1972. The tribes didn't have casinos, they didn't have bingo halls, they didn't have gasoline mini marts, they didn't have all those opportunities to make so much money in this state. Now they've turned it around, and I've had tribal elders flat out tell me, well, we're just taking the white man's money and buying up the land that they don't longer want to take care of. I mean, there just seems to be this imbalance. And it's like they did it to us back early on, and now we're getting it back. And I don't like to hear that type of infighting. I would like to think if they truly brand it as co-management, that we have co-management. And I would like to think that we have a chance when we sit at the table with the North of Falcon process. And I think it starts at the governor's office to really understand that process and get your hooks into it and make sure that your campaign trail isn't just lined with monies from the casinos and the big money, because that really seems like for the last 12,500 days is what's been going on.
There's a couple multiple issues there. First of all, any meetings that are had with the government agencies and tribes or different states, those meetings need to be open.
Yeah.
They don't need to be done behind closed doors.
Right.
It should be an open process.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about things that affect the public,
right,
and our natural resources. And as far as the tribes go, we have treaties, right, with the tribes.
Yeah.
Those treaties need to be followed.
Sure.
Obviously. I agree with you that, yeah, things have changed, with casinos and things like that. But the main thing is that the treaties that our government has had in place with the tribes for decades, they need to be followed. And if it's gone too far one way or the other, then, we need to sit down with the tribes and the stakeholders and have a discussion.
Pull it back to center, yeah.
An open discussion.
Don't get me wrong, there was a lot of good, cohesive activity going on. There's a lot of things heading in the right direction in the realm of fish recovery and habitat recovery, and there is co-management. But there does definitely seem to be a point of contention at the North of Falcon process and how they divide up the fisheries and who gets what on the table. And I just think that process needs to be more productive, and I think it needs to be revisited as far as allocations, and I think it needs to be revisited on who's calling all the shots.
Right. I'm concerned about Washington State, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to be the governor of Washington State.
Yes.
And people in Washington State should have a say, tribal and non-tribal, on our fisheries.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like the idea of outside influence, whether it's the United Nations having a hand in it or other states. Obviously, we want to work with our neighboring partners.
Yep.
But the main thing is to have Washington citizens and tribal members come together and talk about our fisheries here in Washington State.
Totally agreed, yeah. I mean, there is some really good stuff going on. Colville Tribe up on the east side, the hatchery production, the amount of salmon they're putting in the rivers. The Squally Tribe and how they manage their fisheries here is an example of some things that other tribes need to pay attention to. In talking with some tribal elders, the frustration is not all tribes think the same.
Right.
So it's not all the tribes at the table north of Falcon that create the angst or the difficulty in negotiating. It's a handful of them that know they currently hold the power, and it makes it difficult all around. I'm just asking for fairness at the table, and as you stated, Loren, our fisheries throughout the state, and the only way we're going to rebuild our fisheries collectively with tribes, commercial and recreational, coming together, putting forth plans and making sure we're all doing our due diligence to make this work.
And it can be done.
Yeah.
It just takes the leadership with the will to do it.
Right.
And make it a priority.
Right.
And I will.
Yep.
Well, before we jump off salmon recovery a little bit, let's talk about one of the major issues facing salmon recovery at this point, and that's the overabundant sea lion population. When you have a predator that's obviously taking a massive toll on one of our natural resources, where do you stand on management of that predator or non-management of that predator, and how do we balance some of that with endangered species, listed species such as the wolf or the sea lion?
Well, definitely sea lions are not an endangered species
right.
anymore. They are everywhere. If you go out along the coast or the ports,
right,
they are everywhere.
Right.
And just like if mice were coming into your house, wherever you live, if mice are getting in your house, they're destroying your food, they're ripping up your clothes, you're going to control the mouse population. Right. If cockroaches are all over in your house, you're going to control the cockroach population. Right. I don't think anybody would argue against that.
Sure.
And the same thing goes with wildlife, with apex predators, with sea lions, anything. You have to have a balance.
Yep.
And right now, the population of sea lions is way, way, way out of balance.
Would you say that's a man-made or man-created imbalance currently that we're dealing with?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, it's great to hear that, we would have a governor that's taking that seriously and looking at it as an issue that needs to be resolved.
And if people didn't like sea lions being shot, then maybe we could just load them onto a barge and take them up and feed them to the Orcas.
Yeah, to the ocean going orcas, right? I actually read an article recently that the First Nation up in Canada and the Canadian government is working out a process that they're looking at finally, culling sea lions. And the interesting thing is, folks think that they're just going to kill sea lions and then just, put them to waste. They actually have markets where they can utilize every piece of the animal overseas, and it would be turned into something, food source.
That's what hunters do.
That's what hunters do.
Exactly.
Yes,
we
utilize
just go out
things.
and kill stuff just to kill stuff.
Yeah, we're not wolves.
Right.
So, I found that article pretty compelling because that's been one of the things hanging over is like, well, what are they going to do with them if they kill them? Well, there actually is a use for them, and it would be a good program to introduce, especially down here in the state of Washington, if they prove in fact up north that it is beneficial and happening, right? So,
well, it helps everything. If you have an overabundance of predators, it hurts the population of the other animals.
Right.
And if we've got an overpopulation of sea lions, which we do, then that hurts salmon. Which hurts orca.
Yeah. Yes. You're spot on in that regard. Okay. We're going to jump out for a quick break, come back, final session. We're going to jump into budget, taxes. We're going to introduce Chris as your campaign manager, get him in here, talk to him a little bit about this journey he's on with you. And do we want to delve into $30 car tabs?
$30 car tabs, isn't that settled? Oh, wait, no, King County said no. Of course they did.
I actually want to pick your brain on college or trade schools. Okay. I've had an opinion my entire life on college or trade schools, and I think we're seeing the result of lack of trade schools right now with our booming economy. Just ask Barnum; he can't find quality folks to hire out there in construction, so it's kind of frustrating. So, okay, jump out for a quick break. We'll close this out with Loren Culp, and campaign manager Chris is coming in, and we'll finish this up. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here in a few on FHM.
At Metals Supermarkets, we understand your need for fast access to a wide variety of metals, so we've made it easy. Our network of stores carries a wide variety of metal in all different types, shapes, sizes, and grades, with no required minimum order size. Who could ask for more? Simply tell us your dimensions online, on the phone, or in store, and we'll cut or process the metal to your desired size, often while you wait. We offer same-day service and can deliver the metal right to your door or job site. We even source hard-to-find metals, so no matter what you're looking for, Metal Supermarkets can provide it for you. And we're conveniently located with brick-and-mortar stores in Seattle and Portland, so you can check out our extensive stock for yourself. Superior customer service is guaranteed. Quality service from real people who know metal. We are the small quantity metal experts. To place an order, simply call a store to talk to one of our knowledgeable customer service representatives. Fill out a quote request online, order off of our e-commerce website, or visit one of our many locations and pick out the metal you want. Whether you're a small or large business, government, homeowner, or hobbyist, we make it easy for you to buy the exact metal and just the amount you need. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so we know how to get it done. Metal Supermarkets, the convenience stores for metal. Visit or call a Metal Supermarket store near you today.
to Fish Out Northwest. Wayne and Kelly Barnum. As we close this out, our guest in studio, Loren Culp. If you've been watching, hopefully you have, and it looks like a lot of you have, and we appreciate that. And Chris Gergen, campaign manager for Loren Culp.
Thank you very much for having us.
Absolutely, man. This has been great. Loren, you're a breath of fresh air. I think you're on the right path here. We have unraveled a whole lot of things, but we haven't talked about $30 car tabs yet. When we get to that, I really want to tackle college trade schools. I want to give you a little story. Being in the fire service for 31 years, at a time, I don't know, 10, 12 years ago, there was a group of us at the fire department. We were co-teaching at one of our in-district high schools, and we introduced a fire service program. And we brought these kids in, and we would teach them the basics on firefighting skills. We had an older engine that we were allocated to the class, and we taught them all kinds of stuff relative to firefighting. Had used old bunker gear we'd put them in. They would run drills on the fire engine, learn how to load hose, learn how to spray water. We would the class criteria was fire science, writing, and math, and then we'd also teach them to fill out resumes. They would have to do interviews to get ready for job placement. We had all that going on. It was a very popular program that kids were then signing up to get into. And some of those kids actually today as adults work in our department. Some of them have gotten hired on in the fire service years later. School district doesn't pass a bond issue. The first thing they do, and this is back when we were under the WASL. This is back when every kid's going to college, right? And first thing they did is come into the school district, eliminate every trade class. Every, FFA went out the window, welding, wood shop. All those classes went out. Firemanship school was canceled. It was all about preparing for the WASL because every kid's going to college. And at that time, I thought, I left high school, went into automotive technician school for 2 years, became an apprentice automotive technician, was working towards my journeymanship when I decided to be a fireman. And I thought, this is the wrong direction because I know the school and the community I grew up in, it was a small percentage of kids that go on to college. Small percentage. The rest of them, they're either going to go work in a family business or go just get some job and try to start making it in the world, or you go to a vocational school or a trade school and learn a plumber, electrician, carpentry, construction, auto mechanics, diesel, whatever it is. There would seem to be a lot higher job placement in that realm. Now we're faced with a booming economy, and there's a lot of work going on out there, and we got nobody to hire because we got a lot of tech-savvy kids that are really good on the computers and using their phones, but they can't pound a nail. They don't even know what a board of sheetrock looks like.
Right.
How important is getting trade schools back into the curriculum? Not just like at the trade school level, but back in our high school levels, if it's not happening.
Well, a lot of people are realizing that it's more and more important to learn a trade because they're out of college, they got a piece of paper and a mountain of debt,
right,
and can't get a job.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So trade schools, I mean, we need all kinds of jobs filled. Right?
Yeah.
And we need plumbers and electricians and builders and concrete guys, which I was.
Yeah.
I'm all for trade schools. Why go into debt hundreds of thousands of dollars?
Right.
And a lot of people do that, and then they find out that they don't even like what they've learned and what they got a degree for.
Yeah.
So
is there some
I'm all
type?
for that. My trade school was the United States Army.
Yeah.
And then I got out and worked for other people in construction.
Is there some type of incentive programs, perhaps, as governor, you could work towards in getting high schools to take on, building in trade programs at the high school level to get those kids an early start?
Yeah, I'm all for getting things back to the local level as much as possible, right?
Great, yeah.
Our founders told us that government closest to the people is the most easily controlled, right?
Sure.
So I want more control to the local school boards, the local community.
Right.
And let them decide.
Gotcha.
Right.
You got
it's just a big thing, and I'm a high school baseball coach too, and maybe this might get me fired, I don't know, but the senior kids come to me every year, and I always ask them, what are you going to do?
Right.
What's your next step when you leave here? I mean, I'm the last coach they're going to see before they hit the real world, and I get constantly from the kids, I don't know, school's not for me. All my teachers tell me I have to go to college, but school's not for me, so I don't know what to do. And I tell them all, I mean, you can go out, go knock on an electrician's door, go knock on a plumber's door, go ask, say, I'll dig a ditch, I'll do whatever I need to do to get paid, and you'll slowly work your way up, like you said, without that debt, and you can make a great living at it.
Right.
And I feel like that's one of the problems in the schools here in Washington is that isn't being expressed. It isn't being expressed that you don't have to go to a 4-year university and, you know, drop $200,000. You don't have to be a doctor. You don't have to be a lawyer. The plumber works in a great union, or the electrician works in a great union. The city worker digging ditches on the side of the road in the pouring down rain's making $90,000 a year.
Yeah, you got welders making over $150,000 a year.
Right.
I mean, it's unbelievable, and the kids aren't given that insightful information to say you're going to do very well at this trade at this level as a journeyman, especially if you land in a union, and you can provide for your family.
I think from the top side of the education side in Washington, STEM programs need to be pushed a lot more. You know,
I agree.
More trade type stuff being pushed.
If it's not obvious to anybody, let me make it obvious. College is big business. It's huge.
Yep.
You know, I'm not talking bad about going and learning something and getting a degree, but it's being pushed. It's huge. It's big business, and the government puts a lot of money towards that with the student loans. And anytime the government picks winners and losers, the price of everything goes up, right?
Yep.
And the same thing, not just with education, but with medical care. Medical care, the costs of procedures, the cost of doctors, everything goes up, right? But think about that for a second. Remember when LASIK eye surgery first came out?
Yep.
It was very expensive.
Yeah.
And now what is it? $2,500 an eye?
It was good enough and affordable enough that even a fireman could afford it.
Well, there you go.
So,
and the reason for that is the government's not subsidizing it.
Right.
There's competition in the marketplace. The eye doctors are advertising on TV trying to get customers because it's not being supplemented by the government.
Right.
And the price has gone down and the quality has gone up.
Yeah.
The more we can get government out of our affairs, all of our business, the quicker things are going to get better and the prices are going to go down. If they supplement it, the price is going to go up.
We have currently a lot of need for infrastructure rebuild. We have bridges in dire repair. We have highways in projects that are happening now. This I-5 corridor has been under works for 20 plus years between Tacoma and Olympia. Billions upon billions of dollars of infrastructure that need to be accomplished, and yet we get persons out there with initiatives and mob mentality trying to roll back car tabs, and then the government turns around and tries to raise them, and we keep having this dog and cat fight. I've lost track and don't even care to watch it. You know, me, a person who's employed, and maybe this, you know, maybe I don't align with the general populace, but I look at it and say, you know, for my trucks and vehicles and utility trailers and boat trailers and stuff, if I'm into it for $400 or $500 a year and that money's going to infrastructure and going to where it should go to take care of our roads and make sure that this stuff is being taken care of, I don't have an issue with that. If the money's not being allocated to the right areas, I have an issue with that. I'm not one who will go in the voting booth and sign that off and say, yeah, roll it back to $30, because I go, at the end of the day, where's the money going to come from to keep all this infrastructure up to the level it needs to get to, because it's not even close to where it needs to get to. We have a population explosion here in the state of Washington. We have housing developers that continue to put in neighborhoods with no infrastructure built in along with it. You can't put 500 homes in, 2.5 cars per home, and think that the 2-lane road that services that area for people to get to and from to go to work is going to be adequate to handle the traffic flow. And that's what we're up against. So this $30 car tab thing, I mean, where are you at on this type of stuff? Where do we find the money to support and build our infrastructure?
Where do I stand on the 30 car tabs?
Yeah.
I think that the government should charge people as much as it can and give them as less service as possible. Wait a minute. No, that's Jay Inslee's ideas. I'm sorry.
Wait a second. What?
That's exactly what the left wants.
Right.
All the time. The government's the answer, and let's raise taxes, right? And then we're going to fix everything. Just coming out here, highway from Olympia out this way.
Yeah.
I used to live in Elma years and years ago.
Right.
And it's been a 4-lane for decades, right? And traffic is backed up coming out of Olympia.
Yep.
Every time I've come out this way.
Yeah.
There's nobody, it seems like this is kind of a running theme, right?
Yeah.
Nobody's making these problems a priority.
No.
And that's why there's still problems.
Yeah.
And when they do focus on something, they don't look at the root cause of it. They look at the symptoms. It's like going to the doctor and you have a broken leg and he gives you a Band-Aid and sends you out the door.
You'll be fine.
That's what's happening.
Right.
Nobody's looking at the problem and deciding to fix it and make it a priority.
Well, Washington doesn't have a revenue problem. Let's just be clear.
Oh.
Right. So you were asking,
where's the money come from?
Where's the money come from?
Yeah.
Washington doesn't have a revenue problem.
Right.
$53 billion. You don't have a revenue problem.
You got an allocation problem. Yeah.
You have a spending problem.
Right.
So when Fish and Wildlife is underfunded, you don't really have a revenue problem.
Right.
There's the money there for that. It's just an issue of priorities. So instead, we're going to use the state of Washington and the state of Oregon and the state of California and these more liberal, or these bastions of liberal ideology, and we're going to fund pet projects. We're going to do social justice reforms. We're going to use this as an incubator to see what works and what doesn't work. And then once we figure out what works or what's saleable, we're going to export that methodology. We're going to export it to other places.
Sure.
And that's what we're seeing. And so there's $53 billion. I'm sure that Washingtonians are paying enough in taxes.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. And do you ask anybody, and we could tell you we are paying enough in property taxes, everything else.
I think as a taxpayer, what I want to see out of the Washington state government is more transparency and more accountability. Where is our money being spent? Why do you constantly need more?
Right. Wasn't the
but
lottery
we don't get anything.
Wasn't the lottery supposed to fully fund schools?
Right.
Yep.
Right?
How about the marijuana sales?
going to be a huge issue?
Oh yeah,
where's all that money going?
Marijuana tax too. Right. Where does that go? Yeah, I don't know.
Our gasoline taxes are off the charts, right? Gasoline taxes. I don't see the road projects happening from gasoline taxes like they promised.
So when we vote $30 car tabs, and then King County or the city of Seattle wants to roll it back, $30 car tabs is more of a reaction to we're tired of being taxed.
Sure.
Exactly.
This is the way that I've framed this to people, that heroin is to the addict what tax money is to a politician.
Yeah.
Right.
And when you decide that you want $30 car tabs instead of $300 car tabs, what you're doing is you're telling the heroin addict he can't have his hit for today.
Sure.
And they freak out.
Right.
And so that's why you're seeing the reaction that you're seeing is because it's the addict that's jonesing for his next hit. Yep. And it's time that Washingtonians have the opportunity to rein that in.
And where did Inslee go? Right after the car tab thing passed, he went and stopped projects that would hurt the citizens, just like that.
Right. To make a point.
And exactly.
Yeah.
And anytime there's a budget problem in any big municipality or the state, where do they go first? They shut off funding to the parks and shut the parks and close them down.
Right.
That affects families. That affects every citizen in the state.
Right.
And that they do that on purpose. They don't go to the state legislature and say, we got to cut all your salaries tomorrow. No, we're going to cut out the services.
They want an emotional
citizens.
Response from the people.
Exactly.
They want them to experience something.
They did the same thing with the government shutdown, the federal government shutdown. So what was the first thing they did? Was shut down the national parks.
Right.
Well, national parks are like 0.000 something percent of the budget.
Right.
Right. It doesn't make a difference, but what it does is it hurts the people. It makes them angry.
Yep.
And then it makes them push back.
Yep.
Right.
And
the interesting thing is, Chris, you had alluded to it, that they don't have a budget problem, they have a spending problem. And I read a report, 6-8 months ago, Governor Inslee was touted as he came in #1 on a national poll as the governor who had spent the most taxpayers' monies on new ideologies and new programs to interject into and experimental type things that ended up absolutely every one of them went nowhere. We're talking millions upon millions of dollars in the state of Washington that went nowhere. And as far as this group that was looking at that state by state and governor by governor, they attributed him to the #1 spot as the most wasteful in the realm of just throwing money at this. Oh, hey, that's a great idea, and I went to school with him, so I'm going to give him several million to pursue that. And then it's like we ran out of money, and at least you tried.
Yeah.
Millions upon millions of taxpayers' dollars just wasted, and that is the type of crap that needs to stop here in this state. It needs to be, as you said. If monies are going to be allocated towards things, it better fall under 3 criteria.
Yep.
And stop wasting the taxpayers' dollars in this state and get us back on track. So, Any final thoughts? Any final words as you move on through the next year?
Yeah, I just want everybody to know that we have a good team in place. Chris has headed up a great team, and we've got a team all the way across the Washington State.
Yeah.
Not the United States.
The Washington State.
Yeah, not Jay Inslee. I'm just running for governor. And we got a team together, and we need the citizens to get out and support us. Come to our events. Go to culpforgovernor.com or Culp for Governor on Facebook.
Right.
And come to our events. Donate to the campaign. We can't fight the liberal machine without your help.
Right. Right.
But I'm out here, I'm pushing hard, and we're going to do it.
Yep.
And encourage your friends to vote.
Right.
You know, that's been the problem in the past.
It's the biggest thing.
Conservatives have just kind of given up.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah.
You know, when we have 30% turnout for voting, that's not good. We're not going to win.
We got to get the conservatives out to vote.
Get everybody you know registered to vote.
Yep.
And then talk to your friends. Get them to our website. And get them out on voting day and have them donate for sure.
Chris, real quick before we get out of here, your history and campaign movements and things that you've been involved with the last several years.
So I've been in and around politics for over 20 years, and most recently I worked for the president in 2016. I was a state political director in the state of Oregon, and then after the president, well, he was then candidate Trump, shut the lights out in Oregon. Because their Republican gubernatorial candidate came out and endorsed Hillary Clinton. Oh. And it was literally the day after we got a call from New York and said, you guys need to go elsewhere.
Wow.
And so I went down to Florida, and typically I work with federal clients, but I was directed to Loren by a mutual friend. And,
who is that mutual friend?
A mutual friend was Ted Nugent.
Yeah.
And he said, have you ever heard of Loren Culp? And I said, I have not, but I've got this other client I'd really like to talk to you about. And he didn't want to hear about anything else. He said, you need to call Loren.
Mr. Nugent had other plans for you.
Yeah. And he said, do you know who Loren is? And I said, I do not. And he said, you know that cop that gave the middle finger to the governor in Washington? And Ted's real careful with his words.
Sure.
Yeah. And
I watch his show. I can see he's very politically correct.
And I said, oh yeah, that was really great. He goes, that's Loren
the
Culp.
guy.
So so I called Loren, and I feel really honored to be able to work with him.
Yeah.
And he's very much he's a very different kind of candidate than the president was. But he's also very much the same.
Yeah.
In that he's not
he's not a politician, right?
He's not a politician. Yes. And he has fantastic ideas, and I think the most important thing is that his moral compass is headed the right direction.
Absolutely.
And that he really does have a genuine desire to do nothing other than help the people.
Right.
And to give the people back their power.
Fantastic. Well, I can't thank you all enough for coming in. The entire group here, all 20 whatever of you that are crammed in here tonight. This is a big deal. So, Barnum, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No, it's just like I said, as a sportsman, on the sportsman side of it, it is a breath of fresh air to have a candidate who's willing to sit down and talk hunting and fishing.
Yep.
We haven't had that in Washington State for a long, maybe ever.
Right.
And I think if this is the time for hunters and fishermen to get off their butts and send in your ballots, get to the ballot box.
This is the year.
Pull the crank, make sure you vote for Loren, and we make the change that we want in Washington State instead of complaining about it.
Yep.
Now is the time.
Good words, my friend. That is going to finally do it for us. We ran a little long, but well worth the conversation. Thanks for joining us. Remember, we are live every Thursday evening right here at 7 p.m. from the studios at Fish Hunt Northwest. Join us on Facebook and or our YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please jump over there and do so. Hit that subscribe button. Catch up on a lot of the previous episodes and a lot of the how-tos and the cooking segments that we put out there. Follow us on Facebook throughout the week. If you fish and hunt throughout the Pacific Northwest or the nation, you need to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, and all the other accounts that we have out there. Search Fish Hunt Northwest. Stay with us. We will see you next week. We got a great show lined up for next week that I'm excited about. So be sure to tune in, excuse me, next Thursday, 7 p.m. right here. And until then, have a great week.